Hello, my name is Natalie Johnson, and I will be speaking today about a hand washing instructional mini lesson. This lesson has been specifically created for a 17-year-old student named Ben, and he is in the 11th grade. His IEP level is on a pre-K to kindergarten level academically, but he is able to get around campus functionally by using the restroom on his own, walking to classes on his own, as well as feeding himself. At this time, we will look at the hand washing instructional mini lesson guide. Ben's exceptionality is autism and an intellectual disability. The overarching goal that we will be looking towards is Ben will independently wash his hands a minimum of twice a day without being prompted by the end of the first quarter. Within this mini lesson, the objectives we will be striving for is student will identify matching image of introduced vocabulary and identify the order of events of washing hands. Materials needed will be a projector, a digital file of washing your hands poem, a digital file of a social story, a YouTube video of a song about washing hands, a printed activity of a sequence of events when washing hands, a glue stick, scissors, a bowl of water, small cup of soap, pepper, paper towels, and student observation checklist. Key vocabulary will be soap, which is a liquid that cleans, scrub, which means lightly press hands against each other in a back and forth motion. Rinse, which is wet hands long enough for soap to disappear, and dry. Rub paper towel on both sides of hands until hands are no longer wet. The lesson procedures. The teacher will introduce the lesson by projecting a wash your hands poem and reading it aloud. The poem goes as: wash your hands. Our hands are covered in germs that are tiny and cannot be seen. We need to scrub with hand soap to make our hands sparkling clean. The teacher will then read a washing my hands social story. Within this social story, the vocabulary identified above will be introduced. In this social story, the sequence of washing your hands is also included. For the sake of time, I will not read through the entire social story, but there it talks about how hands get dirty when using the restroom, coughing, sneezing, playing outside, and many other ways. It's really important to keep our hands clean because of health reasons. And then at this time, it goes through the sequence of washing your hands, including the identified vocabulary, such as dry, rinse, scrub, and soap. During that time, the vocabulary will be heavily emphasized. Following that, vocabulary will be reviewed. The student will come to the screen or the projector screen and point to the visual aid when the teacher names a vocabulary word. During this time, this document will be projected onto the screen, and the teacher or I would move into a more of a coaching role rather than an instructional role, and I would ask Ben to point to the image of rinsing, and he would have to go and point to the correct image, and this would continue for the other 3 vocabulary words. At that time, I would use this checklist to ensure that Ben was able to identify the images for our vocabulary. In the next part of the lesson, we would watch a video and song about washing our hands. And then also, following that piece of the lesson, we would do a hands-on experiment with soap, water, and pepper to show the importance of soap and how it actually keeps germs away. This is a really wonderful way for Ben to be exposed to the importance of soap and how it works. Because germs are not able to be seen by our eyes, the pepper would represent the soap, the germs, and then the soap repels the pepper. There isn't a video here for an example, but we would actually do a hands-on experiment. Within Ben's IEP, it is actually included that his accommodations and curriculum strategies include visual aids, hands-on activities, allow for varied responses, and also that the student learns by music and song. We have incorporated a hands-on experiment. We've included a song, and we've also included several visual cues by the vocabulary matching and then also with a social story. Mentioned above, the vocabulary matching was our formative assessment throughout the middle of the lesson, and at the closing of the lesson, we would complete a summative assessment where Ben would cut out and glue the matching sequence of events for the identified image. Because Ben cannot read at a higher grade level than a pre-K level, I would assist with his reading, and he would cut and paste the imagery in the correct sequence. A few things to note after going over the mini lesson guide. In regards to student consideration, Ben has not had good daily hygiene in regards to washing his hands. This is a wonderful way to ensure that he is able to stay healthy and clean, but also it improves his independence and his self-esteem along his peers. The classroom environment for this lesson would be in a one-on-one tutoring session due to this being an individualized goal and specific functional needs for Ben. Ben also receives occupational therapy, and this lesson will be shared with his therapist to ensure consistency of terms and vocabulary, but also the steps in the order of how we wash our hands. This would impact and benefit Ben due to his independence and his self-esteem, but also being able to identify sequence and order. And then I also do believe that this is a wonderful way for me to learn how Ben learns the best. We have a varied approach here with the songs, also the social story, as well as hands-on experiments and the matching of the imagery. I would be able to identify the best way that Ben learns, but then also the most informative way to assess him in his learnings. Ben will do a wonderful job with this, and I really appreciate his willingness to participate in this, and it has been a really fun time to work with him on this goal and towards the objectives of meeting the overarching goal and mastery. Thank you.